Hi everyone, Gavin here from CSV Getter. I'm really excited to show you a guide about how you can use CSV Getter to create really powerful APIs in a matter of clicks without any code by linking up this app to Google Sheets. Now, what's really exciting about this is that there's loads of inbuilt functionality in Google Sheets, such as Google Finance, meaning that you can create a very powerful little spreadsheet which creates live finance conversions. And using this app, you can basically turn that sheet into a CRM or a JSON API in just a matter of clicks. I found this to be really powerful myself, as I've been able to set up a live currency API using this method in a way where everything's really easy. I know what's going on, I know where the data is coming from, and it's all from my familiar format of the Google Sheet. So I'm going to show you how to do this now. I've basically created a blank spreadsheet here. And here I'm going to use Google Finance to basically create a bunch of conversions. So let's say I want to compare some currencies between USD and, from USD to a new currency. So if I had USD in this column here, and I wanted it to do 2 GBP, I'd create a column such as USD value, and the value of whatever's been converted. So the USD value is going to be 1. Now we're going to use a formula, Google Finance, and I'll show you how the Google Finance formula works. So here's some documentation on the Google Finance formula. As you can see, there's so many things that you could put in here and get really cool, interesting values, which are going to come out of your spreadsheet live and in through your JSON API through CSV Getter. So I'm going to use it just to convert currencies. And so I will just find the basic currency formula. So the Google Finance ticker, it just needs to be these two strings sort of concatenated together. So essentially, if I were to hard code this formula, I'd be writing in this Google Finance USD GBP, like that. And if you do that, then it's going to give you the exchange rate from USD to GBP. Right in your Google Sheet live value, which is pretty exciting because these currency exchange APIs, they're hard to come by in a way which is free. Now CSV Getter is not a free tool, but it allows you to build so many things under one platform, and this is just one of the things you can do. You can also connect Airtables and Notion. So there's loads of live data sources you can use with this app to create a JSON API or just upload data. So combining these two things, I essentially have this value. So if I wanted to do USD to Euro, I'm just going to copy these fields and pull them down. Now the formula runs on that as well, and then there's probably other stuff that we'd want to include in our currency API. Probably what you could do is you can go down and create a list of the world's most traded currencies, make this a little bit more comprehensive. But I'm just going to do an example of a few. So I've done Australian dollars and Canadian dollars there. And we have the exchange rate of all of these against the US dollar. Now, this is something which would be really handy to come from an API live. We don't want to have the sheet open all the time to get these values. We'd want to put it into our apps. And this is where CSV Getter comes in. So open CSV Getter, log in and connect up your platforms. It's very easy to do. You can do it all in one click. I've just remembered that I should probably name my spreadsheet so I can find it here. So I'm going to call this guide currencies. So just so you know what sheet I'm referring to. Now back in CSV Getter, I'm going to select this from my drive. There it is, guide currencies. And once I've selected the sheet, it's going to choose automatically the first tab, which is going to be sheet 1. So you can see here it's selected sheet 1 for me. And I'm going to say my currency API. There we go. Now what this is going to do is this is going to pull all the data from that sheet, and it's going to show us what that looks like. And we basically are creating an API endpoint for this feed. Now, if you're not familiar with CSV Getter, it's a great tool for just looking at your data, seeing what's there. So there's our from column, our to column, our USD value, and our value. Now this, I've put it as these names to have it work really well as JSON data. So this is essentially, we've created an API endpoint URL. The default is to download whatever's in the sheet as a CSV file. But in this video, we're talking about APIs and CRMs. And in the URL wizard here, we can really easily see what it's like when we just switch over to JSON. Now what we're doing when we change that value here is, you can do this yourself manually if you wanted, just adding a different type parameter to the end of our export URL. And so now we have type JSON records, and the output sample shows us that we've essentially created an API. So here's our currency API coming out live. And this is really good because every time you hit this URL, it's not going to get the latest value of the sheet, of the Google Sheet. It's actually going to get the latest currencies. And I've tested this because I was worried, okay, I close my Google Sheet, the Google Finance formula stops updating, and every time we get the sheet data with CSV Getter, all we get is just the last value, the last live value of the currency. But I was pretty surprised, pleasantly surprised to do when testing this, that no, I've waited an entire weekend, I've been pinging my CSV Getter URL, and I've got the latest currency through without opening my Google Sheet. So that's really pleased about that. Now, this is really good because we can get all the data out if we copy this URL here. So I'll show you what that looks like in Postman. I really recommend the app Postman. It's great for testing APIs in a very useful way, as you're about to see. So it kind of works like a web browser. You can create new tabs, but you can put any URL in. So it works really well with the CSV Getter URL. So here we go, copy this. Now that's on the clipboard, I paste it in here. And as you can see, we have the values through, and those are coming in live, which is very useful. And as you can see here in our output sample, it was 73016, and in Postman, it's already updated. So we've got live data coming through here, which is obviously really useful for currency exchange rates. Now, you may have guessed, but you can actually pass SQL into this. So you could, for example, add SQL parameters, so say order by value desk. Now testing that would mean that the data comes out, in the like it's using SQL to order, so we can see that value is descending order. But what's really exciting about this is that you can take this one export URL, and by just using different variations of SQL every time you call it, you've essentially got a different endpoint. So we can just say where from is equal to, sorry, we're going to need to filter by 2. So where 2 is equal to GBP. Now testing the SQL there, I've made an error. Let me just see the error that I've made. I think what I've done is I've slipped into Python mode. There we go. So yeah, the quotes that you use in SQL, they obviously matter, and it might take a little playing around in the terminal to get it sorted. But as you can see, I've filtered only to the GBP value to this. So if I want this to be an API where I'm only calling GBP, then it's really easy to do that with a URL param, and you can just play around with it, make sure it's working, copy the URL, and then this URL. It doesn't look pretty, but it's really powerful and flexible, and it has your live data coming straight from your sheet. So it's like it can be a really sort of lightweight CRM, or it can be your API. Point is, whatever is in this Google Sheet is going to be the basis of this API, and it's kind of like a lightweight database where you can have finance data, and you can have all sorts of stuff. You can make a really powerful Google Sheet here, and then create some sort of subset data output from this app here. So that's really what I'm trying to demonstrate. Now, if you want this to be a locked API, you can go ahead and do that. So if you only want certain people to get access to your currency data, that's fine as well. Just add password. And for the password, I'm going to just say currency. Now we go back over to Postman and try and get that data again. We're going to tell us that an authorization header is required. So what that password you just set that's going to be needed to pass through as a bearer token. Postman, they've got a little authorization tab to set the bearer token. So if I type in currency and send that again, it's going to work, but I better show you what's actually going on here. It's added a header, authorization, bearer, space, and then the tokens. So if you're doing this in Python or you're doing this manually, then you should know that that's the format of bearer tokens. And we have a guide all about bearer tokens, which I'll add in the description as well, so you can check it out. But that's basically building a live currency API from CSV Getter. I'd love to hear your ideas about other stuff you could build with this. You know, to get live sheet data through is obviously a very exciting thing, and it's you can probably build loads of useful stuff. So any fresh ideas or anything you want me to make a tutorial on, just send us a message at info@csvgetter.com. Thank you very much for watching.